This is the 10th day of judicial corruption. The 10th night also of judicial corruption. It is a special night, for we have now many prosecutors calling for the prosecution of a government official who has misused his power in the judicial system. It is now in the open. Mike Nifong's situation is most dangerous for prosecutors because it opens them to prosecution, like Bernie Grimm on the Greta Van Susteren show suggested. Many prosecutors break the law. And if they do, they should actually be subject to it like the police officers who break the law and have sufficient evidence available to convict them of breaking the federal law. I was fortunate enough to get a little bit of what Jim Hammer said, and more so Jeff Brown, and I think they both agreed that prosecution seems to be an appropriate thing. This is Jeff Brown. You won't be able to see him because it's not a good picture.
From the beginning, the federal grand jury should be indicting him, and I don't want him to do it. I want him to handcuff. I want crime to get there's no right answer for this.
And I'd love to hear from Mike Nifong. We'll invite him on the show anytime we give him a fair shot.
He said, I don't want him booted. I want him in handcuffs. I want him indicted and convicted, naturally. That's the prosecutor. The state attorney has a privilege, but it's not an absolute privilege, and he certainly doesn't have a privilege to commit crimes violating the civil rights laws. My judges said, among other things, along with the Florida Bar, said an unholy statement that is as bad, if not worse, when it comes to permanent effects upon me, that I was wrong in claiming that a right to be heard had been violated, because it is sufficient to satisfy a right to be heard by merely allowing the evidence to be submitted, and maybe to be read or not, but done in private outside of everybody's view. Well, one, that was not actually what occurred, but that is sufficient to show that these people were dumb enough to say something that's absolutely outrageous. A right to be heard in criminal court is absolute. A right to be heard in civil court in the preponderance of issues is absolute. There are times where perhaps it's not going to be required, but at a hearing where you're going to either get or lose your right to a trial, you got to wait and have the guy heard before you rule on evidence you have never seen. The evidence was about to be presented, but the court ruled first. 80 minutes were left. It's an absurdity. They left that part out, but they knew it. The judge who was the referee in the case needs to be investigated, and if cause is found, and it will be, he should be indicted, and any jury will convict someone as unwilling to comply with minimum due process as this man, as well as a goodly number of other judges who touched this case to the extent that they had a professional duty to do a number of things that they failed to do. They were part and parcel, otherwise known as accomplices. They furthered the conspiracy, and they failed to report a felony when they saw it. No, we must begin to indict those officials, government officials, who violate the law blatantly. It has to be done. Please help me. And I'll try to help myself, since you all haven't seemed to have the least bit of interest in doing the right thing, the citizen thing, or even sticking your neck out one little inch.